Stray Gods, the Role-Playing Musical, is an interactive musical with a focus on Greek gods in the modern world. And with that, it certainly seems like it's already got an audience carved out for it. And while I usually don't hit those marks of interest, I still thought, why not try out the, quote, musical for video game lovers? Grace, who looks like everybody's OC, is in a band, yet the college dropout still feels like she's missing her place in the world. While singing her struggle one night, she's joined by a new friend, Calliope. What might have been a sweet harmony turns discordant when soon after, Calliope shows up at her apartment, bleeding to death. In parting, something from her becomes a part of Grace, and before she knows it, she's been swept up in a world where Greek gods walk among us. Rather than gods, they call themselves idols and hide in plain sight. Grace is accused of murdering Calliope, and is given just 7 days to clear her name by finding the real killer. With time running out to assemble her defense, you control Grace as she makes her way into the world of the idols to gather information. Stray Gods gameplay consists of dialogue with different choices to learn more about the murder and get access to new locations and people. With the deck stacked against her, Grace's only saving, is that she has inherited the powers of the Muse. With these powers, Grace is able to coax her conversation partners into song, the better to persuade or get the truth out of them. These songs seem to act as battles, with the back and forth between Grace and her opponent resembling combat, but mechanically they fell a bit flat. My opponent's reaction would change based on my words, but it was only what I said at the very end of a song that mattered. Sometimes whether I won or lost, I could still continue on the same. The 7-day timeline was something I had to keep an eye out for myself, as I could normally choose where to go a few places before time might actually pass. At the start of the game, you'll choose whether you're charming, kick-ass, or clever. These traits will impact whether or not you can make certain dialogue choices, affecting how you progress the story. And if you fail to make a decision in time, although you have an option to remove the timer, your following line will be automatically picked based on your chosen trait. I'm not really sure if Stray Gods has a failure state or a bad ending condition to reach, unless perhaps I went out of my way to upset pretty much everyone. At times, the pacing of the songs could be a little drawn out when I was at heavy info dump parts. There was also my choice to continue certain lines of questioning just for my interest. Other times I'd felt like I'd stroll out from one and straight into another. With multiple story paths, Stray Gods' save system and how it interacts with the music and song-based dialogue exchanges can hinder its replayability. You can skip these spoken dialogue lines, but obviously the option isn't available during songs, forcing you to replay them from the top each time. The save system is automatic, so if you want to go back and change a story path, rather than just loading an autosave, you'll basically erase anything that happens after that point. Though they have stated that if they did it the other way it would potentially cause issues in the songs, it still seems unnecessarily harsh. As a playthrough can be done in a day, and there are smaller story branches aside from a few major decisions, I feel this will discourage those who wish to try to see everything in the game. As far as I saw, Stray Gods doesn't seem to have a backlog or dialogue history option to review lines if you happen to blank out or skip too much either, though you do get a journal with character profiles and it fills in the more you progress the story. Stray Gods has a few romance options. I actually changed my mind on someone partway through and was able to change who I went for at the final hour, and perhaps this was only because I'd picked the floaty dialogue options with them early in the run. I think the romances are fine, but as the entire timeline takes place over a week, they aren't very strong. There is a smidge of millennial-esque humour here and there, but not enough that I think it would annoy the people who don't enjoy that. One thing I appreciated was the cast of minor characters, some of which you could actively talk to, and one side story that was pretty cute. I think a point in the story might be a tad contentious for some people, but I can at least say that Stray Gods didn't pussyfoot its way around the idols being involved in major world events. Others might appreciate how it was used to add a taste of post-war immigrant family struggle over just a straight murder conspiracy plot. The most notable thing about the visual presentation is how Stray Gods are seemingly static but also animated. Rather than sticking to changing sprites that stand in place or making a playable cartoon, Summerfall Studios has chosen the happy medium of a motion comic. To those unfamiliar with the style, it might seem a little half-baked, but I think it was a decent choice. It goes quite well with the illustrated style, as the design choices and thick lines certainly would suit a comic. Colour is well used to suit the moods of the few environments, and Grace's pals shape a fantastical stage to fit the mood, not just the reality of their location. Of course, Stray Gods being the role-playing musical, the most important part of the presentation is the music. With a fully orchestrated soundtrack, the care put into these songs is evident, with callback segments from prior songs playing the more climatic clashes. I really enjoyed that choosing more aggressive options would usually add a rock flavour to the song. There are at least a couple of songs I'll be looking forward to hearing some version of outside of the game. As I stated earlier, half of a song remains largely the same, but your choices will create different lines and change up the music. Not just while singing, but whether or not others will join in as well. It'll be interesting to see how a release of this soundtrack would work. While Stray Gods was largely developed in Melbourne, most of the voice cast are prominent American voice actors who also sing their own roles. While I'm no music critic, I feel as though the choice was made as the entire game's dialogue is spoken, so they wanted people who could do both, as many professional singers might not be able to. Of course, some of them have sung their work previously, and nobody sounds bad by any means. Though one person I thought did a good job of sounding different, as it wasn't until I read their name in the credits and then played it again that I could tell it was them. While Stray Gods is subtitled the Roleplaying Musical, it plays much more akin to a visual novel or adventure game than what one might call an RPG, though the musical part still applies. I don't find much of a comparison to more traditional or solo role-playing experiences either. The story isn't super flashy, and it isn't really that hard to find out the culprit, but there are still some minor twists and unexpected subjects. I think romance fans might be a touch disappointed, as it doesn't take center stage. The music is especially fun, and some tracks definitely would have a place in theatre. There are consequential decisions and allies you choose, but when I went back to replay songs and try for different endings, most things played out the same way, even if the participants were not the same. Stray Gods will scratch those with an itch for an urban fantasy musical, but it might feel replayable as one would expect. I give Stray Gods the Role-Playing Musical a 6 out of 10. Let me know if you are interested in this game, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!